Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. The bomb goes boom, boom. We gotta stop these bombs, man. We can't let the bombs go boom. Hi, my name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. Welcome back, friends. This is the 148th episode of Backlick Cinema, the podcast. We discuss the movies of yesteryear, especially the movies of the latter half of the last millennium. If you like what you're about to hear, then tell your family, tell your friends, and tell the great guys at your local bomb disposal unit about our humble little show. Ladies and gentlemen, I have for you a guy that, you know this, man. You've seen him before. He's been on the show before. I've been on his show. He's been on my show. He's the host of Movie Lovers Unite with his co-host Rossi. And he does fantastic reviews and breakdowns of a lot of your favorite movies from yesterday and today. So he's even better than this podcast in the sense that he'll talk about the movies that's out right now. And I probably won't, at least not that often. Maybe every once in a while I'll come out with a bonus episode to talk about today's movies. But often I'm feeling that nostalgia. I'm digging deep, digging back into the past to try to reignite the love that I have for movies from way back when. And this man does the exact same thing on his show. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further delay, may I introduce to you the very incredible John DiGregorio.
Thank you, man. I can't top that intro. Every single time when we do this, every single time we bring a guest on, I'm just second nature because of the fact that you have such a fire intro every single time. So I just want to point that out there.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I do my best.
Yeah, man.
Every time somebody says that, I just tell people that I just want you to feel welcome to the show. If you get anything out of the show, at least have a proper introduction.
Right, exactly.
I want you to feel good coming on here. So I don't want to, usually I bury the lead as to the movie that we're going to talk about, but I'm not going to do that this time because you have a very singular experience. There's a reason that you chose Blown Away. I have the grand list of movies, and there are a bunch of movies on the list. Blown Away was one of those movies, and that's the one you chose. And you had a personal experience regarding this movie. Why don't you tell the people what you experienced?
Okay, so this is actually when my grandfather came down from Boston over to Mississippi to visit us. And so Blown Away was one of those movies that just has this nostalgia to me personally, but also to just a cinematic experience of seeing it and seeing Tommy Lee Jones, seeing this movie being played out, but also too, matter of fact, my grandfather got a call from my grandmother. My grandmother tells my grandfather, hey, we had this big, huge explosion that happened because they're filming a movie called Blown Away, and the pipes burst because of the explosion and the impact of the explosion. So they had to go on ahead and replace the pipes for my grandfather after the explosions and stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of big bada boom moments in this movie that all I can picture is my grandmother probably trying to take a shower and all of a sudden the pipes are bursting or something. But this is just something that just holds true to my heart because of the fact, number one, I'm from Boston. Number two, I have family still in Boston. So nostalgically and everything, I'm excited to be able to review this.
That's pretty awesome. It's great that you have like a personal connection to the movie. Have you had any other personal connection to other movies? Have you been on a set or been an extra, or has like a movie rolled into whatever neighborhood that you happen to be in and you got to see some of the production?
To be honest with you, I haven't per se, but matter of fact, there was actually The Departed that happened in Boston and stuff like that. That was actually 20 minutes away from East Boston, where I'm from, because basically you have Southie, which is basically all the Irish people are at. Then you have the East Boston, which is basically the Italians. That's actually where my neck of the woods is, over there in Boston.
Right.
But yeah, let's see here. I want to say that there was also Johnny Depp was actually filming Black Mass over there at one time. and then they switched over to Florida, and you can definitely tell the difference in the environment because of the background. I'm like, this is not Boston. This is totally different because where they would actually be at was probably Revere Beach, and Revere Beach is nowhere close to where they were even filming.
Right.
So, and I can actually tell because my aunt used to live in a condo over there. So I'm like looking at the buildings. I'm like, yeah, that's Florida.
Yeah, it's not for the locals. It's for everybody else who's not familiar with the Boston area.
Right.
I go through this. I actually kind of went through that with Rumble in the Bronx, but I didn't know about it until somebody had pointed it out because I didn't live in New York, so I'm not familiar with the area. But somebody pointed out you don't see mountains from New York City. You wouldn't see any mountains from Boston. In that movie, the mountains were clearly visible. But see, I did not care because I'm just there to see Jackie Chan. I'm not worried about like the background and everything. I think the closest I'll get to it is and the reason I say it's close is because I didn't realize it at the time. I only realized it after, like way after the fact. Like this is Die Hard 2, so I didn't realize until after I did the episode on Die Hard 2 the huge flaw that it was. And the huge flaw is that, I mean, I love the movie, but I have to point out the flaw. The flaw is that the plot of the movie is that they have to land some airplanes. The terrorists are threatening to destroy these airplanes by crashing them into the ground. And the airplanes are circling Dulles Airport because they have no other place to land. Right. The flaw is that miles away from Washington, D.C., the closest airport to Washington, D.C. is, what's it called? The Reagan National Airport.
Yeah, the Reagan Airport.
Right. And I don't know if it was called Reagan at the time. But that's the closest airport. That's like right across the bridge from Washington, D.C. in Arlington, Virginia. So they could have landed there. And cause it's just, for a plane, it's just a spitting distance from where the plane was at Dulles. They could have easily gone to 50 miles to the Washington, D.C. airport. And if for some reason they couldn't land there, there's also another airport that's about the same distance away. That's the BWI airport. That's the Baltimore Washington International. They could have landed there. Or if push comes to shove, they could have went to the Richmond airport. There are a whole bunch of small biplane airports, where people have their Cessnas and whatnot. There are a bunch of airports like that in the area. And then if you really want to stretch it, they could have just went to New York somewhere. So it's not like
exactly.
It's not like they didn't have options, which is kind of funny that you only realize this, after the fact, but it was still a fun movie.
Definitely. I always love watching Die Hard, especially during Christmas time.
Right.
So
right.
That's one of my favorites.
Right. And you only notice this if you live in the area, like if you live around Washington, D.C. Obviously, if you don't, just like you knew that Johnny Depp was not in Boston or anywhere in that region, you know that the plot of Die Hard 2 doesn't really work. You have to suspend your disbelief way up, right? In order to enjoy that movie.
Exactly. You just have to go with the film and enjoy the film for what it is and say, okay, they're in New York. Okay. Even though there's mountains there, right. they're in the Bronx, even though they're in Canada.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. As long as it's not something that's egregious for this is different for every person, their level of, egregiousness, like when it's so bad that it's like you can't suspend your disbelief. So
I can tell.
Yeah.
In certain movies.
Right. So what have you been watching lately? What's been on your radar?
So let's see here. My wife and I have been binging Outlander. We finished that up, and we're waiting until November for that. Then we watched. We ended up binging That 90s Show. We binged all of the second season. So, and then I get this. Okay, so I'm a big House of the Dragon person. So, she's like, well, I said, babe, this is the second season. She goes, I know. I was like, I know too. I don't have time for me to explain everything that's going on over here. So I said, we're going to go from season 1 and binge watch that, and then you'll be caught up. So we binge watch all of season 1. Then now we're on season 2, binging those episodes.
That's not a bad idea.
Right, because I'd rather her experience it, have the same experiences that I did.
Right.
instead of breaking things down. I was like, look, there's a lot of meat to this. You need to digest it. You need to take care of it and watch it for yourself because I'm telling you, you're gonna like it.
Yeah, you
Um,
can't just watch any of these shows like in the third season and expect to know what's going on. Most of these shows are it's like the whole storyline is connected to the previous season and that's connected to the previous season. So it'd really be hard to keep up.
exactly. But I did watch two other. I watched Beverly Hills Cop 4 recently. I also watched Paris Under Paris, which is a shark movie, and then I watched Hitman. So those are the recent ones that I watched.
So from the chatter that I've gathered, because I haven't seen any of these movies, is that you've watched two great movies and one really bad movie. Am I right on that?
Well, I have to say, Beverly Hills Cop had its moments of being really good, and then there's some of it that I feel like the dialogue is very cringeworthy and very forced, especially when you're trying to do an Axel Foley hustle of him talking fast, doing what Axel Foley does in a 2024 world. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it's like, ooh, that's really cringy. And then the other thing I had a problem with was they put Billy Rosewood on the sidelines, basically.
Right.
And you only get to see Billy for like the last 5-10 minutes of the film. So that's like a little nitpicky thing. But I had an okay time with it. It's okay, if you're just wanting to put it on and not have to worry about anything, paying attention to it and put it in the background.
Well, I was thinking when I mentioned the really bad movies, I was actually thinking about Under Paris. So, did you really enjoy Under Paris?
I actually enjoyed Under Paris, to be honest with you. I had fun with it. I didn't watch it with the subtitles. I watched it in dub. And I really enjoyed the aspect of the fact that there's a shark under Paris, and now they have to try and get rid of the shark. But then they pull a Jurassic Park type of thing where now the female is actually reproducing. And it's kind of fascinating on how they play up with the science of it and stuff. I was just like comparing, this is the best shark movie since Jaws. I was like, well, I need to see it because it's hard to compare that to Jaws. Because if you're saying that this is a movie that's better than Jaws, it needs to live up to that hype. It has the same kind of thrill ride as a Jaws film, in a sense, with it being a thriller kind of thing, wondering of what's going to happen to these main characters, who's going to survive it, how are they going to get out of this situation. That part is good and stuff like that. But is it the same tone? Is it the same drive? Is it the same thing? No. You cannot touch Jaws with a 10-foot pole or anything.
Right.
Because Jaws is a classic.
I'm not going to, I wouldn't compare any shark movie to Jaws just because in one case, it is a classic movie. It's probably the first blockbuster. I think people know it as the first blockbuster. It's the first, it was the first movie to be considered a summer blockbuster because the reason that Jaws premiered in the summer is that most movie studios would play all of their movies or what they figured would be hit movies around the winter holidays, the fall, winter, early spring, because that's when most people are home and they're together with their families. They're not in the summertime. People are out. They're going camping. They're going to the beaches. They're going on vacation overseas. So in the summertime, that's where they would put the movies that they figured weren't going to do well. So that's why that's why Jaws was in the summertime.
That's to make a hit. Right.
And they accidentally became a hit. Yeah, it was totally unexpected. And so, like for me, I'm not saying I don't like Jaws. I really do like Jaws, but I do feel like it's a little bit dated. So that's why I wouldn't compare any shark movie to Jaws because it's, in one way it's a classic and in another way it's kind of dated because, there are things they can do now that they couldn't do when they were producing Jaws. I would, to me, I think I would probably, compare it to Deep Blue Sea. That's the one with LL Cool J, or I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, I remember that. As I walked to the Shadow of Death, I have a big long stick because I'm going to be meanest motherfucker inside the valley. Right. Yeah.
I would tend to, when I see a shark movie, I'm always in my mind comparing it to that one. So like, how the Meg compares to Deep Blue Sea, and I was like, yeah, well, Deep Blue Sea is less contrived, I guess.
Right, I got you.
So, but I don't know how to compare Under Paris to Deep Blue Sea. How would you do that?
I think it has the same kind of setup as Deep Blue Sea with the science behind it and the whole entire deal of shark reproducing on her own, where basically she's an independent shark, which is like, I don't need no male shark in my life, so therefore I'm just going to reproduce all these babies. But um, but that's what I have to say is the fact that I feel like it has the same kind of science behind Deep Blue Sea. If you're into that sciencey kind of world, and then if you're into the Jaws realm of stuff and stuff like that too, it has something for everybody,
Right.
to actually be there for. And I think it's actually a little bit of a treat. I think it's a pretty good film for if you just want to shove popcorn in your face, watch a shark movie, watch this thing happening under Paris. So I think it's a good film.
All right. That sounds tempting. I'm way behind on my movies. The last movie I think I watched that when I went to the theaters to watch was Bad Boys Ride or Die. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
and
Ride or Die.
So how would you compare Ride or Die to Axel F?
To be honest with you, I haven't seen the new Bad Boys at all.
All right, cool.
But it was on my list, but then I had some other stuff that got in the way, and I had to shuffle things around.
Right.
So I want to see it so I can compare it.
Right.
But if I had to compare it to, let's say, Beverly Hills Cop 3, I would have to say that this is the movie that Eddie Murphy wanted to do. This would actually be, if you actually think about it, let's say, for instance, that Beverly Hills Cop 3 was not filmed, and he wanted to go for a little bit more of a seriousness with it, because that's what he was trying to go for when he wanted to do it. This would be it. Because, yeah, he's serious in this movie. He has some funny moments, but once you get into Beverly Hills itself, he's looking for his daughter after so many years of them not talking to each other. And so you have the character dynamic between that, and you have a father who's trying to be there for his daughter, and also trying to be comedic at the same time, and draw different layers from Axel that we haven't seen before, which I thought was very interesting when you look at it from black and white paper. Seeing how it's drawn out and seeing how he does it, I thought that they did a really good job at trying to mesh the seriousness in with the comedy. So I thought they did a decent job at that.
Right.
Whenever you compared to it. So if you're comparing, if nobody liked Beverly Hills Cop 3, there might be maybe a 50% chance that you might like the fourth one. So,
well, Beverly Hills, I have never seen Beverly Hills Cop 3, but from the zeitgeist, from what people have told me that have seen it, they did not like it.
Well, get this, okay? So we actually do something different now, where we actually do nostalgically, how we feel about something nostalgically, looking through the eyes of a kid, and then we go through the adult lenses with stripping it away, right?
Right.
So, and the kid in me was like, "Oh, I like this. I love the whole entire Universal Studio element mixed with Disneyland aspect of it," and now I'm like, "Nah, this doesn't go together at all." And then I gave it, I think I gave it like a 3.5 or a 4. I can't remember exactly.
Right.
But you guys can listen to that on the audio. But yeah, I gave it a low rating when it came down to nostalgia, and a little bit of a high note, a little bit small with nudge for non-nostalgically, looking through the adult lenses. So
you still get stuff out of Beverly Hills Cop 3. It's not like the greatest, but you still enjoyed it.
It's like, you know what? It's like a Diet Mountain Dew, right? It's like, if that's all that they have at the store, I'll take it. I may not like it, but it's doable.
Right. All right. So I'm glad you joined us over here at this little podcast. I really appreciate it. And I want you to talk about your podcast. Where can they find you on social media? Where can they find your podcast? Let the people know about Movie Lovers Unite.
Okay. So basically, you can find Rossi and I on all social medias at Movie Lovers Unit, on TikTok, Movie Lovers Unit 0 over there. Then you have us on X at Movie Lovers Unit over there. You have us at Movie Lovers Unite on YouTube, and also too where you guys get your podcast from. We're also part of the Unfiltered Studios. In case you're wondering what we do, we actually go scene by scene of each thing. We talk about stuff nostalgically about how we felt about it at the very beginning of the podcast, and then after that, we go on ahead, we strip away that nostalgia, like we're getting grounded from our parents, and then what we do is we go on ahead and we give out a rating of how we felt about it now, stripping it away. So that's how we do our breakdowns at Movie Lovers Unite. And you guys can follow us over there or email me at movieloversunite@gmail.com.
Absolutely. I'm a listener of your show, and I really appreciate the breakdowns and the enthusiasm with which you and Rossi talk about movies. And sometimes you have a guest on, and sometimes it's you and somebody just talking about video games or music. It's eclectic, your show, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Because here's the thing. I actually have a new segment called Intermission. And Intermission, I always say this at the very beginning. I said, picture us in line waiting for a ticket. And we just happen to be talking about different things. It could be the new Arnold Schwarzenegger book that dropped. Oh, Arnold has a new book. What's it about? And then after that, we start talking about that. Or we do a segment where basically we're revisiting the Marshall Mathers LP and talking about Eminem, about that album nostalgically. We don't strip away the nostalgia or anything from that. We just talk about the time of it released and talking about the music and going through each track and dissecting it and just enjoying it for what it is. But yeah, that's what Intermission is. Intermission is just basically a little bit more of a laid back show, just talking about certain things.
Right. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. And as you heard, John had mentioned all the places that he can be found, and I will have all of those places in the show notes. And we are going to switch over to our next segment, the opening credits. Oh, hold on a second. My sound effects isn't working. Darn. Well, we'll have to put that in post.
I guess Tommy Lee Jones stripped you away from your sound effects.
Yeah, it's like my pod track is just all of a sudden just went, oh, wait a minute, it's back. Let's try it now.
Okay.
Oh, wrong sound effects. Take it away, John. Tell them about Blown Away.
Okay, so Lieutenant Jimmy Dove is Boston's best when it comes down to neutralizing bombs. Now he's starting a new life with a new bride and child, and he wants to get out of the bomb disposal racket. But a series of terrorist bombs attacks draws him back into his job. These attacks are different because they're not just targeting buildings or structures. They're sophisticatedly targeting members of the bomb disposal team, someone from his past who he knows the truth of who Jimmy Dove really is, someone who wants revenge.
Right. And that is where the spine-tingling thrills get into this movie. It was released July 1st, 1994, produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Trilogy Entertainment. It grossed over $30 million in the U.S. and Canada. Ooh, let me see if I can talk. On a reported budget of $28 million. That is surprising. A little surprising. If you adjust for inflation, that means that it grossed $63 million on a $59 million budget. That would qualify it as a bomb, and I didn't realize that was going to happen. and we're going to get into the trivia, but Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, was very confident about this film, and it did not turn out the way that they thought it was going to turn out, and that is a shame because I'm going to say the first time I watched this movie, I had a fantastic time with it. So, and then somebody had mentioned it on, I guess, a show or something that I happened to listen to. I was like, oh, let me put that on the list. I got to do a rewatch of that. So it got a chance to do that. So let's talk about the people who are in this movie, starting off with Mr. Jeff Bridges. He plays Lieutenant Jimmy Dove, also known as Liam McGivney. And he's also been in The Big Lebowski, True Grit, Iron Man, and Starman.
Then we also have Tommy Lee Jones. He played in The Fugitive. He's also played in Batman Forever, No Country for Old Men.
Right. Have you seen any of those?
I've actually done a review on The Fugitive. And also Batman Forever as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I was just saying I just listened to somebody talking about Batman Forever. It was hilarious.
Yeah, we did a rewatch of all the Batman movies back when the Batman was coming out. So we did '89 all the way through all the other movies, and then went over into the Nolan verse, and then we went over into this. So I mean, yeah. So
oh, you missed the 1966 Batman. I guess you're gonna have to go and fill that hole.
right,
Yeah.
but yeah, we did The Fugitive. We broke that down scene by scene a couple of months back, so that was a fun one to do.
Excellent. Up next is Susie Amiss. She played Kate, or Kate Dove. She's also been in The Usual Suspects, Titanic, and The Ballad of Little Joe. I don't know much about her, but she's been in a bunch of movies.
I haven't seen The Usual. Well, yeah, I've seen The Usual Suspects and Titanic, but Ballad of Little Joe I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of that one.
Me either. So let's see here. Next one we have Lloyd Bridges. He plays Max O'Bannon. He also was in Hot Shots, Airplane, and he was also in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. And I've seen all those movies.
Right. The funny thing about Lloyd Bridges is that early in his career, he was a very serious actor. And then he stopped doing that. I think it started with Airplane. Airplane, he's kind of playing a parody of his earlier roles. And I think that ever since then, he's just been doing comedic or goofy roles. This movie was kind of a return to dramatic acting for him. And up until that point, like, I don't think I've ever seen him in a drama before. So it was pleasantly surprising.
It really was. I think he did a really good job of playing the dramatic part of the film and stuff like that too. We'll get into that a little later, but yeah, he definitely knows how to crank it up whenever he needs to crank it up. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next is Forrest Whitaker. He played Officer Anthony Franklin. You may have seen him in The Last King of Scotland, Black Panther, or, if you're unfortunate, Battlefield Earth.
And then we have Steffi Leinberg, who played Lizzie. Reggie Rich, she played in Richie Rich. I've seen that one. Drillbell Taylor, didn't see that one. And City by the Sea, didn't see that one. But yeah, I did see Richie Rich as a kid.
I think a lot of kids saw Richie Rich. I watched Richie Rich because I used to watch the Richie Rich cartoons. I used to read the Richie Rich comics, and I was not thoroughly impressed with the Richie Rich live action movie.
Me either. I remember as a kid, I'm like, oh, this is cool. They have a McDonald's. And then I'm afraid to look back at it and be like, I feel bad for those workers who are working at McDonald's with this one kid.
I imagine that he pays them more than what a regular McDonald's franchise would pay them.
Probably so.
That's what I would like to imagine. So up next is John Finn. He plays Captain Rourke, and he's been in Glory and Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can was a really good movie. I really enjoyed that one.
Still hadn't seen it yet.
It's probably one of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies with Tom Hanks and him. It's really good. It's a really good cat and mouse movie.
Right.
Definitely strongly recommend it. So we got Robin Santango. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. But she plays Hudson and OFC Blanket, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Devil's Advocate. I did see The Devil's Advocate. I did see that movie.
So you called him a she. It's really a he.
Oh, she. Well, sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's. I'm sure he's fine. I don't think he listens to this podcast. So I think his name was pronounced Robin Santiago Hudson, and
okay.
that was the guy. That was the first guy that was killed in the blast. It was that guy. He was killed under a bridge.
Right. Okay.
Is that guy right? And finally, we have a cameo by Cuba Gooding Jr. He was in the Bomb Squad class, and he's not credited, but you recognize him instantly. And he's been in Boys in the Hood and Gladiator. People would have recognized him because he was in Boys in the Hood. He was in Gladiator, which had got a lot of buzz at the time. It's a boxing movie. And so when I saw, I was like, oh, this Cuba Gooding Jr. I thought he was going to be in more of the movie. It's like, no, it's just a cameo. He's just showing up. He's just, I'll be in the movie for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I'll just show up to class and let them teach me a little bit of bomb squatting. And then after that, I'll just make my exit.
Right.
Because I probably flunked.
Absolutely. I got to go get that next movie done.
Right. So this is actually directed by Stephen Hopkins, and he directed Lost in Space, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. He also did Predator 2, Judgment Night, and The Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah, Judgment Night's one of my favorite movies. I hadn't seen it in ages. I don't know if I still feel that way about it, since I think I've only seen it twice, decades ago, literally. But I may or may not have seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. Because I remember watching some Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I don't know which ones that I watched. And Lost in Space, I'm almost curious about watching that again. I remember not liking it that much when I saw it in theaters. But it's one of those things where I was like, maybe I should take a second look. Just
right. I do that too with some movies. I'm like, well, you know what? I didn't enjoy that movie whenever it was first released. Maybe I need to go back and check it out. And sometimes it actually works for me. Like I didn't like The Other Guys when it got first released in theaters, and then it was on DirecTV. I'm like, I'll check it out, and I started laughing. So it definitely is different on how we look at films, right?
Yeah.
When we first see it.
I like The Other Guys instantly. It was so funny.
I really love that. But Lost in Space, I did see that in theaters as a kid. I did see A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child.
Right. I never saw The Ghost in the Darkness. I'm curious about it. I thought it was going to be a bad movie, but I've seen a lot of people have positive feelings about it. So I'm thinking maybe I should check that out. I've been super lazy today. I could have watched 3 movies before I started this podcast, but I didn't. I just laid up in bed and watched TikTok, and that's a bad thing. So
where's the Matthew McConaughey? Those are rookie numbers, my friend, in this racket. You
right.
Get those numbers up. Just playing.
So this movie was written by John Rice, Joe Bettier, and Jay Roach. So Rice and Roberts, as near as I can determine, I think they may be a writing team. They wrote a few movies together and a bunch of TV movies. So they wrote Wind Talkers and Chasers. And then there's this Anna Nicole TV movie that they wrote along with a bunch of others. And then you have Wolverton. Oh shoot, that's the wrong name. I don't even know if that's I think I'm gonna have to skip that one because I'm not exactly sure if that's the right name. You know what? Hold on. Let me double check. Let me see. The reason I write these notes is so that I don't have to go back to what you call it? Not Rotten Tomatoes. What's that? IMDb. I don't have to go back to IMDb to double check, but now I have to double check because I wrote something wrong. I don't think I wrote the correct thing for Jay Roach. Hold on, let me double check this real quick. Joe Roach, as a writer, he wrote 4 things, and I'm double checking. No, I think I was right. I was right the first time.
Okay.
I just had to be sure. So I just wrote the wrong name on here. I didn't update the name. So Roach, the only movie he wrote, or he had a part of writing, a theatrical release, is Blown Away. And he wrote a TV movie called Life Pod. So,
okay.
But mostly he's kind of a director, producer type.
Because I know he did the Austin Power movies and Meet the Parents.
Right. So. Yeah, he was like, okay, later for this writing gig, I'm going to go directing. I'm going to take my talents to the other team. All right, so that's it for what we know about the writers. What's the next thing?
So now we got the score, and the score is actually written by Alan Silvestri. Is that how you say his name?
Silvestri.
You see? Thank you. Silvestri. And he's done Zimmer, 143 credits to his name in post-production. He's got Here, The Electric State, Larry Boy, Classic Silvertree, Forrest Gump, Grumpy Old Men, Father of the Bride, The Joshua Tree, With or Without You. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Right. So actually, Zimmer is another name. I didn't update this. I did not properly update these notes. Zimmer was from the previous notes. And I meant to erase that. But yeah, he's got 3 movies in post-production because I decided to include those because otherwise I'd just be watching. His name is in the notes so many times, because he's been involved in so many movies that I'm running out of movies to credit him with. So, because if you
basically have like a whole filmography of nothing but Alan Silvertree.
Yeah. And the Joshua Tree, that's actually a YouTube album that was featured in the movie. So that's why I put that there. So it featured the album because the album is basically is one of the plot points in the movie or plot element. This is when what's his name, the terrorist, he goes to I guess it's some kind of market or it's kind of like
Basically
a garage
flea
sale.
market.
Yeah, like a flea market. And this lady sells him, she gets him to buy the Joshua Tree album by U2, and then they play some of the songs during the movie, and it's kind of part of his soundtrack. So the two main songs that they used was With or Without You and I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. So that it's an interesting characteristic that they kind of added to the movie. So that's it for the opening credits. And I don't have many announcements, only that I got some new t-shirt designs. Some of them were like inspired, like on the spot, like just, scrolling through Twitter and I see some responses and stuff like that. So some of these I stole and some of these are my own responses on Twitter. So there's one design called Impression. And that's what I call it. It's basically a shirt, and on the shirt it says, I sincerely apologize for giving you the impression that I cared. I put that on the shirt.
I love it.
That's what I was feeling at the time. There's another shirt I created called All Gods Matter. And then the last shirt it's just words that say All Gods Matter. And then the last one is a shirt and with the words Because Racism on it. Just thoughts rolling through my head as I'm scrolling through all of the social medias. And because people ask, why did this happen? And in my brain, I'm going, because racism. And then I decided to put that on the shirt.
I like that.
So that's, and also I've been on a few different podcasts as a guest. And then I've had some people as a guest on this show. So it's been fun. I've been cruising. I think I've mentioned in the previous show all of the shows that I've guested on. So that's really cool. And now I'm about to play a promo for a show that I've been listening to. I'm with some people I'm exchanging some promos with. So I want to play this next promo called the Brew Crime podcast. I've actually listened to a couple of their shows. It's pretty neat. It's a laid back gentleman's true crime podcast. It's mostly kind of like some news stories, some true crime. It's a very interesting show to listen to, and I actually have a good time listening to it. So here is the promo for Brew Crime.
Welcome to Brew Crime, a true crime and beer podcast.
This is a podcast where we pick a theme, cover a few cases, and pair them with craft beer.
Join me, Mike.
And me, JT.
As we explore the world of crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. You can find us on social media at Brewcrime or our website, brewcrime.com. And you can find us on any podcast app at Brewcrime Podcast.
Join us as we discuss the horrible crimes that surround us and maybe, definitely tip a bottle or two back as you do it. Drink with us the second and last Tuesday of every month.
And we're back. And we are going to talk about our favorite parts. Now, you've watched this, John, many times. So I'm sure that you've got some parts that, like, as you're sitting down and rewatching the movie, the part you're just waiting for certain parts to come up. So let me know what's one of your, we're going to try to stick to 5 favorot parts. So what's one of your favorite parts? 5
Don't worry,
each.
I'm not going to do a breakdown of it.
Right. 5. Well, I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for because it's like if we sit here and we talk about the movie, we can go on for 5 hours, but I don't want to have a 5-hour podcast. I'm just trying to keep it down a little bit. So.
I got you.
So and it adds structure. I feel that I personally need to be constrained. So these are the constraints that I put on myself. So we each going to do like 5 each favorite parts. And I'm definitely going to lose count as we get through this. But go ahead and tell me what of your favorite parts.
Okay, so every single time I think of U2, I automatically think of this movie. Every single time I still remember Tommy Lee Jones, his character, Ryan Garrity, going to this flea market. He picks up the cassette tape, right? He goes, who are these lads? And she goes, oh, it's U2. Are they good? She goes, they're from Ireland. Oh, from my home country. Okay. So he goes on. So it has a little bit of comedy, dark comedy in it, but you have him listening to I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. You have that soundtrack being played in the background, which I thought is hilarious.
Right.
But yeah, every single time I think of U2, I think of his character. But if I'm going to go out with a bang, per se, I'm going to have to say my other favorite things that I like about this movie is I actually like the headphones in Forrest Whitaker's ears for the headphones. And every single time I think of headphones, I'm like, am I going to get hooked up to something that I don't want to, that I know that I can't get out of? It made me be fearful of headphones. And here we are with headphones as a podcaster. So yeah.
That's funny. I want to mention that one of my favorite parts is one of the shirts that the bomb disposal unit wears. And it was just funny to me. And I think that it was meant to be funny. It's just clever. So do you remember what was written on their shirts, the t-shirts that they wore?
I never paid attention to the shirts.
It's only one guy wore the shirts. And the shirt says, "We take a licking if it stops ticking." Yeah,
that's a t-shirt. I would actually buy that just for that quote on that one.
Right. And that's fun. And I guess some people in the audience may not remember, but it's riffing off of the Timex commercials. So they used to have a slogan, "It takes a licking and keep on ticking." So they basically took that and flip it, because Timex watches are supposed to be tough and durable. And they were something that, like, astronauts would use, or race car drivers would use. Anybody that was in a profession where something like a watch might get damaged, those were the people that Timex were advertising to. Not all of their watches, but like certain brands, certain certain types of their watches. So that's what they were advertising. And so that t-shirt kind of riffs off of that. It was a very popular slogan at the time, and everybody knew it was part of the monoculture in the way that hardly anything is nowadays. It was the meme of the time.
What else is one of your other favorite moments though too?
Well, if I might continue, one of my favorite moments is the first save. The first save, when they always have this in like an action movie or a thriller, where you get to see the main character and see what he's good at and see why he's good. And I think we talked about the other guys earlier. So the other guys kind of do this, but they kind of twist it around. And the other guys, you had Samuel Jackson and who was it?
Mark Wahlberg.
No, it was Samuel Jackson and The Rock. And The Rock.
Oh yeah, The Rock.
And they were supposed to be like the greatest, like, detective. They were supposed to be the action stars of the movie. They were the people that everybody in their police department looked at as being the best police officers in their unit. And then they go and they're chasing this bad guy, and the bad guy jumps off a building, and then The Rock and Samuel Jackson, they jump off the building and they die. And so that's
what initially,
right. And that's what they do. And it's playing off the basic trope of, in an action movie, the action hero that we're going to follow throughout the movie, why he's good at his job, why we following him, why he's such a badass. So in this movie, that's him defusing this first bomb. So this dude, he has his girlfriend type out a message over and over again, "I love you," until the computer runs out of memory. And then when it runs out of memory, it blows her up. That's the situation. If she stops typing, she blows up. When the computer runs out of memory, she blows up. So the bomb squad is trying to figure out how to get her out of that situation. And the boyfriend is down, had offed himself, and he's on the floor. He's a bloody mess. And so you had the first guy, he's in there. He's trying to hook up the bomb disposal robot. It's basically just an arm. And he's trying to get the arm to type out the message, "I love you," on a separate keyboard. Right.
Right.
And I don't even think it's "I love you." I think it's just "I love." It's I space LUV.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And it's typing over and over again. And basically what he's going to do is that he's going to have the robot type this message out over and over again. And then he's going to switch keyboards without the bomb device knowing. And then it was going to get the girl and himself out and just let the bomb blow up. And that was their plan. And then the main character, Jimmy, comes in. Jimmy Dove, interesting name. He comes in and he's going to assist. He's going to try to defuse the bomb. And he's trying to calm the girl down first. He's trying to calm the girl down, keep her calm so that she's not making any typing errors, because if she makes a typing mistake, it's going to blow up. And so the guy seems to get the arm to work. The arm is typing "I love" or love you" over and over again. So he's like, okay, we're good. We can get her out. We can all get out of here. And as soon as they start to leave, the thing craps out. It stops working. And then they gotta, so the girl can't stop typing and they kind of have to reset the arm. And then, Jimmy realizes it's not going to work. So he tells that guy to leave. He's like, just get out. I'm going to defuse the bomb. And then he successfully does it by guessing which wire is the wire that causes the bomb to stop.
What wine do you like? Do you like red wine or do you like white wine?
He's just like, I don't give a shit.
Just get me off of this damn thing, all right?
Right.
Okay, I like white wine myself.
Yeah, and I think it always comes down to a guess, and he guessed correctly, and he was able to defuse the bomb and got her out of the building. So, but that was just a fun moment. It was fun, him having the rapport with the young college student, and him taking charge. It's like all of that was just a fun little scene. So that's why it's one of my favorite moments.
Right, and he also tells her too. He goes, "I need to get in between your legs."
Yeah, that was funny. Because she's sitting at a desk.
You see him at first. I'm like, is he really gonna do what I think he's gonna do? Instead, they wind up showing like showing the boyfriend laying on the floor. Instead, I'm like, okay, that's the opposite of what I thought it was gonna happen because it's been so long since I've seen the movie.
Right. Yeah, he has to get on the floor and he has to get under the desk because she's sitting at a desk. He has to get under the desk, remove the bottom of the desks, and so he can get to the computer. Well, he has to get to the bomb, and then he sees the bomb and all the wires, and he's able to pick the right wire because they always seem to be able to pick the correct wire. They don't have any testing equipment to see if there's current going through it. They don't have anything. They're just there's like, well, everybody else uses a red wire to blow up the bomb. Let's see if let's see if he does it this time.
The other thing that I thought that was very creative was how Tommy Lee Jones makes these bombs, especially when you have to have two people standing, you know what I'm saying? Like how he booby traps them.
Yeah.
Into doing what they want them to do. Like there's that one scene under the bridge.
Yeah.
And so happens to be he winds up blowing the bomb squad person underneath the bridge up.
Right. Yeah, that was,
and I thought
that was clever.
But here's the thing, man. I'm a sucker for abandoned buildings. I'm also a sucker for abandoned ships. And to have Tommy Lee Jones going into this the old casino of a ship and everything, I love seeing stuff like that. I was like, okay, this is actually perfect for a guy that's trying to hide out and do what he wants to do. Nobody would actually think about that.
Right.
That's a hideout.
Especially since it's like he's not American, he's Irish. And so he's just basically what do you call him? I'm trying to think of the person a squatter. He's a squatter on an abandoned boat. Right. And so nobody would ever think to stay there. It would have been interesting if there was some squatters there already and he chased them out. That would have been fun. It would have been a fun addition to the movie. But
well, shit, gotta go to another ship.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
Right.
What do you have there? Do you have YouTube? Look. I'll trade you YouTube for Rob Zombie or White Zombie. No, I'm good. I got my YouTube. I'm good to go. I'm gonna rock out over here. You guys are over there. We don't eat in between. So
Right.
But okay. So remember Max, the guy that's trying to fix the bubbles and everything in his jacuzzi?
Yeah.
That scene is just so heartbreaking to see. Because of how he's all beaten up, he gets beat up inside a pub, and because Tommy Lee Jones figures out that this is actually someone that's working with Dove, so he winds up knocking him out, and then next thing you know it, he winds up telling Dove where he's located at, and he's on American go round, strapped up to the metal bars, and if he loses balance off of it, where that middle ball drops at, he's done for.
Yeah, and he's got a bunch of. I don't know if the arrows are actually piercing his body, but he's got a bunch of arrows that look like they're piercing his body. And I've got some more info about that in the trivia. I think I do. Remind me about the arrows piercing his body. But basically, the what's his name? The bomber, whose name I can't remember. I still can't remember because I didn't write his name down in the notes because I'm a dummy. So anyway, I think his name is Ryan. So Ryan had captured Max, and Max is actually the uncle of Jimmy, the bomb squad guy. So earlier, Jimmy tells Max to stay out of the whole thing because Max is also a bomb expert, and Max is an old man, but he wants to help. And Jimmy says, "No, stay out of it. This is my problem. I don't want you getting involved." But Max starts to help out anyway. He starts to do his own detective work because at the time they didn't know who was causing all of these bombings. And through Max's detective work, they figure out that it's Ryan. And then Ryan figures out that Max knows him. Ryan beats him over the head and kidnaps him. And then going to the part where you were talking about, where he's got Max strapped to a merry-go-round, and he's got these arrows either touching his body or poking through his body. I can't really tell. I don't think that his body is pierced. But like now in hindsight, I don't think his body was pierced because I can't imagine him being able to stay, because he has to stay perfectly still so the bomb doesn't go off. So, I can't imagine that, the arrows are actually piercing his body. But then his hands are behind his back. The bombs are basically wrapped around him, but the triggering device is that his hands are wrapped around this metal tube. The tube is between his hands and it's horizontal. And so if he tilts the tube one way or the other, it'll come in contact with the battery that's in the tube and activate the bomb, and he'll blow up. So he has to stand perfectly still so that he doesn't tilt the tube. And what you're alluding to is how when Jimmy shows up and Jimmy says, "Max is messed up. I'm gonna get you out of this." And then Jimmy leaves Max to go, I guess, get his bomb kit, get his tools, right, so he can defuse the bombs. But Max decides, that he doesn't want to put Jimmy's life in danger. So he starts to stand up off the merry-go-round. He starts to move in order to tilt the bomb, and he basically blows himself up to save Jimmy. And you're right. That was a heartbreaking moment. That was because I like Max. Max was a fun character. He was a fun dude.
These fucking bubbles. that jacuzzi was giving him hell. And then even whenever he dies, you see Jimmy over there. He's like, he could never get the damn bubbles to work.
Right. Yeah, Jimmy goes over. He's distraught and heartbroken. He's messed up over the death of Max, and he goes over to the jacuzzi that Max could never get to work. And he's just in the jacuzzi, fully clothed, drunk, with his gun out, trying to figure out, I guess he's suicidal at this point, and he's guilt-ridden because of who he really is, and why, and because his past has come back to haunt him, and his past is killing all of his teammates, his past is threatening his family. And then I think it's here in this state when he's drunk and wet in the jacuzzi, his wife finds him. And he confesses to his wife who he really is. He's like, my name is really Liam McGivney. I'm from Ireland, and I was recruited by terrorists to, and he was blowing up people. And then I had to turn him in because he's gone too far, so I turned him in. But then he himself,
too much.
Yeah, and then he himself escaped to America somehow, and changed his whole identity and started a new life to get away from his past. So that was all interesting. Yeah, I can see the critics had suggested that this story could have been better. It could have been better handled, and I can see their point in that regard, because it's a little involved. But I thought it was neat. I thought it was neat how that was handled.
I did too.
Yeah, one of my other favorite parts that you alluded to earlier was Franklin when he got caught up in a bomb trap. The one thing about Ryan is that he's stalking everybody. He knows Jimmy because when he escapes to America, he escaped from an Irish prison and he came over to America. He came over to America just to chill and hide. And he just so happened to discover that there's this bomb squad guy named Jimmy Dove, and he recognizes Jimmy Dove as Liam McGivney, and he instantly wants revenge. That's when he starts to stalk Jimmy Dove, his family, all of his friends, learning their habits. And one of the people he follows is Franklin. And Franklin, played by young Forrest Whitaker, just young, dumb, and full of cum. That's just super arrogant, fast talker. He talks more. I mean, like, apparently he's somewhat proficient at defusing bombs, nowhere near as good as Jimmy, but he talks a big game. That's his thing. He talks a huge game.
He's a good smack talker.
Right. It's great smack talker. And a fairly decent detective, I guess. So Ryan's stalking everybody. He finds Jimmy's habits and everything. And so based on Jimmy's habits, Jimmy sits down, trying to chill out. He puts on his headphones to listen to some music, and all of a sudden something clicks and he realizes that he's attached to a bomb. And now he has to figure out, he doesn't know what he will do, like what will trigger the bomb, what will cause the bomb to go off. Like, will he, if he sits up, will it cause the bomb to go off? If he turns on the radio, or if he turns off the radio, will it cause the bomb to go off? What will happen? So the phone is near him, so he takes off his shoes and he dials with his toes, and he can't even get his socks off. So he dials with his socked up toes, the bomb squad. And luckily he's in the bomb squad. So the bomb squad is on speed dial. So he just has to press one button on his old, remember the old telephones that had actual buttons?
Oh yeah, I remember those.
He couldn't do that with a cell phone, not with the modern cell phones. He couldn't do that with a screen.
SOL on that point, man.
How is he going to open his phone? How is he going to unlock his phone? He would never.
The passcode.
He would
imagine it was like a passcode, and he gets the wrong passcode with his toes, and the thing says, "Okay, well, try again in 5 minutes." Right.
Or theoretically, he could have just used his face, and that probably would have worked. But still, how is he going to hold the phone up to his face?
Right.
Like he basically did with the new technology. But with the old technology, with a landline telephone, he could press a physical button with his toes, and he's glad that he didn't press the wrong speed dial button. And he got the bomb squad to come over, and of course Jimmy comes back over, and he's checking everything out. He sees how everything is wired in his headphones and whatnot. And so this is just a great scene. It is a huge amount of tension that builds in this scene. And I even like it when like there's a transition between him calling the bomb squad, and then there's kind of like a close up, and then the camera pulls back and everybody's there, like Jimmy's there, and there's another bomb technician there trying to defuse that bomb. They got to figure out what a bomb is. They got to figure out how to defuse it. Everybody's there trying to calm him down, and he's making jokes about his death and whatnot. So that's fun. and then the dude that they bring over, he kind of loses his nerve. Like he loses nerve, and he can't hold it together. So Jimmy has to tell him to leave because he's not helping the situation. He lost his nerve because he doesn't believe in I think it's called astronomy. I can't remember which one is which.
Can't remember exactly.
He doesn't believe in the signs. So he doesn't believe in horoscopes. So somebody read his horoscope.
That's it.
Beware of something, and then he sees a connection, like beware of the wolf or the big wolf or something. No, beware of a big dog or something like that. And he has to defuse They're gonna cut a wire that's in the subwoofer, and he says, "Oh, wolf, dog, this is the horoscope that I don't believe in. Now I can't do my job anymore because I'm freaked out because a horoscope that I don't believe in might be true." So, so Jimmy excuses him, and now basically Franklin has to save his own life. So because you have the wires in his headphones and the wire by the subwoofer that he can just barely reach, and Jimmy puts some clippers, some wire cutters in his hands, and they have to cut these wires at the same time. Jimmy's over there by the headphones, has to cut the wires in the headphone. Franklin has to stretch out and cut the wire over by the subwoofer. And then Jimmy's like, on one, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and on one, cut the wires. And that's always nervous because one of y'all don't understand what is it. No. Is it 3, 2, 1, then cut, or is it 3, 2, 1, cut on one? There's always going to be that confusion. In comedy movies, that's played up a lot. But these are consummate professionals. So he says on one, and they both agree on one, and they cut the wire on one. Franklin's life is saved. So that was a pretty good scene. I like that scene.
I definitely like that scene as well. But just to go down to like my very last favorite scene though. Now this has like a Speed kind of moment. I know that this is part of the trivia part as well, because this actually feels like Speed at this point because of the fact that you have the wife playing the Boston Pops. You have this little toy underneath the car that's supposed to be the bomb, and he can't go over past a certain speed. So this is my philosophy here. Okay. So he decided that he's going to turn down the movie Speed, which is about a bomb that you have to go 70 miles an hour, to play in a movie called Blown Away, where basically you have to be in a vehicle to try not to go over a certain amount of speed in order for the bomb not to go off.
Right.
So I just thought that the concept of these two movies are basically close to the same in the climax of it. But I just thought the fact that you had the Boston Pops happening, and he's trying to get there before she gets blown up, and I really like the suspense of it, having the Boston Pops playing the fireworks show during 4th of July. I mean, it may seem kind of cliche in a sense because of the fact it's the 90s, and okay, well, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead. We're going to have a movie called Blown Away. Okay, I'm sold. Okay, what's else going to happen? It's going to happen on 4th of July. That's brilliant because we're making things blow away on 4th of July. So that's perfect. Hold on. There's more. What? The wife is going to be playing for the Boston Pops while there's a bomb on her, while fireworks are going up, while the husband is. That's brilliant. Let's put that in the script. Okay, I'm sold. Let's do it. But yeah, I just felt the suspense of it still. I just felt the nostalgia of it at this point of like, oh shit, is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? What's going to happen? Even though I've seen it a bunch of times, it just shows you how much added into it, how much you can actually be on the edge of your seat if you're watching something.
Right.
Especially when you have that characterization of a character that you care about and the emotional attachment of that character.
Yeah, they played that scene out really well. That worked really well. That was what you call it, one of those post-pounding moments.
Right.
The last favorite part that I have is Ryan's fake American accent. So that was kind of funny because he's doing a double accent, like he's doing an accent twice. He's doing his Irish accent, and on top of that, he's doing an Irishman trying to fake an American accent, and I thought that was hilarious.
You know what? I never even noticed it, to be honest with you.
Right. He just managed to create this weird hybrid accent, and I thought it was kind of funny because there are movies where it works because the person really doesn't have a good American accent. So the thing I'm thinking specifically about is Die Hard, where you have Hans Gruber, and he has a thick German accent, but he has to fake an American accent, so he sounds weird when he does it. And I thought that was brilliant. But he's an Englishman doing a German accent, and he's pretending, and then he has to fake an American accent. So his American accent sounds weird. So I don't know if he was doing an American accent through German or if he was just, as an Englishman, doing his best American accent. Either way, it works, and I thought it was funny. And it's like when you're watching the movie, it's like, how do you not know that that man is not American?
Exactly.
He sounds so weird. So I liked how Tommy Lee Jones tried to tap into that weirdness of having a strange accent or trying to fake an accent. I thought that was brilliant. So those are all my favorite parts.
Okay.
Oh, do you have anything else?
No, that's pretty much everything I wanted to basically talk about, because I wanted to talk about the traps. I wanted to talk about the ending scene. So yeah, those are actually my top moments in the movie, aside from him getting married and stuff like that. But that's about it. I mean, because I really like this movie. This is something that still holds close to my heart. But I'm gonna have to try and strip it away another time. But yeah,
right,
nostalgically though, I really love it.
Right. I as I said earlier, I really enjoyed this movie when it first came out, but not as much this time when it's rewatched. And I don't know what it is. I think the tension for me wasn't as high as it was when I was watching it when I was younger. So I think that's the reason. And maybe it's because, you know, when I saw it in theater and whatnot, it was kind of bombastic. It seemed it was like plenty. I think all I needed to be satisfied was plenty of explosions. And that's what this movie gives. And I really liked, Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones, especially at that time. I would go to the theaters to see them in the movies, and I'm not saying I've seen every one of their movies, but if I had a choice, like if Jeff Bridges was in the movie, I was going to go try and see it because he was in the movie. It was that kind of deal. But there's still some things that I liked about it and that I talk about. So yeah, it's something that I can find joy in, even though I didn't like it as much as I did the first time I watched it. So we are going to transition. That's a word that I can use. We're going to transition to talk about the trivia top 10. All right. Got 10 of the most interesting pieces of trivia that I can find in a movie. It actually didn't have a lot. Apparently not a bunch of drama or you know, a whole bunch of kerfuffle over the making of this movie. I actually had to search outside of IMDb to some other sites to find some interesting pieces of trivia, and I found it. So I'm going to start us off. And one of the things I found, MGM had such confidence in the finished film that they delayed the film for its original April 1994 release date to the busy summer July 94, hoping it would be a surprise hit. Ooh, were they wrong?
And I thought that would actually, thought that would actually make more money because of Tommy Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges himself, but I guess not. I always pictured this movie to be top tier. I never expected it to be a box office bomb.
Right, right.
Never expected that.
Yeah, I thought it was a hit movie, and I didn't know that it was a bomb.
Same here. According to us, it was a hit.
Right.
According to box office reports, not so much.
Right.
But yeah, you have Jeff Bridges, who turned down the lead role, like I mentioned, in Speed to do this film. This was also a Mad Bomber movie released in the same year as this film. Right.
So there was Speed, and it was Blown Away, and people chose Speed. People remember Speed. Speed was probably the only flaw that Speed had, in my opinion, was the movie should have ended when they got off the bus. And they could have did something where somebody else caught the bomber, or they found another way to stop the bomber. But instead, you had the added scene because of the studio. They had an added scene where they had to fight on the subway train in order to end the movie. But so Speed succeeded in spite of studio interference. So the next bit of trivia is that a piece of shrapnel from the exploding bomb came within several feet of striking Jeff Bridges. I've seen this mentioned on several sites. So this must have been a serious piece of shrapnel, like a giant piece of jagged, life-ending metal that came within a few feet of ending Jeff Bridges' life. And I'm glad it didn't happen.
Me too as well. I'm picturing what bomb it could be, you know, but I just wish that they would have told us, you know.
Right.
Because I find that kind of stuff in it kind of really interesting. Although they really are father and son, Lloyd Bridges and Jeff Bridges are cast as uncle and nephew in the movie.
Right. You know, I didn't know that until I read this piece of trivia. I thought, I didn't even know they were related. I just thought that they were, you know, people that knew each other. And so that actually, maybe there was a line that I missed, or maybe they didn't emphasize it enough in the movie. But then again, they're hanging. I guess I was in my head on this. And when I say that, I mean that because I know that they're father and son, that's the only thing I was thinking about. Oh, they're father and son. I know they're not playing father and son in this movie, but I know that they're father and son. So maybe they said
that's actually
something.
how I felt. They didn't do enough to emphasize, you know, how these characters are related.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that sentiment though, because, you know, I know that they're father and son in real life, but I didn't have a clue at how they were related as far as the characters go. So that was pretty interesting.
So the statue of the man with the arrows, I had mentioned this earlier, which is Garrity dresses Max up as, is Saint Sebastian. I meant to do research on Saint Sebastian, but I didn't. But you see the statue of Saint Sebastian in several shots in the movie. And then you see how Max is all strapped up to the merry-go-round and he's got those arrows on. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if they're actually poking through him, but the arrows are attached to him, making it look like the statue of Saint Sebastian. So yeah, that was fascinating.
And then let's see here. We have the then after that we have the film cast includes 4 Oscar winners: Tommy Lee Jones, Jeff Bridges, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. That's fascinating too. That's before, I don't know when they each win their Oscars, but I don't know. I didn't do any research. It's just fascinating that you had 4 amazing actors in the movie together. So that's good. And Cuba Gooding had a cameo, so he wasn't even in the movie all that much. He was probably just acting like Cuba Gooding Jr.
Right. That's pretty funny though that they acknowledged Cuba Gooding Jr. as an Academy Award winner, even though he was only in it for like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes of the film. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they acknowledged him for that.
Yeah, well, he's famous enough where you could call it a cameo. It's not like he's going to be in the movie at this stage of his career and people not know who he was there, because this is after Boys in the Hood, so people knew him and as an up and coming actor. So I think they would have known. So this next pick, I don't usually speculate on who might have played characters in the movie, but I included this because I was running thin on trivia. So the following actors I'm going to mention: Kevin Bacon, Alec Baldwin, Michael Biehn, Bruce Campbell, Kevin Costner, Michael Douglas, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Richard Gere, Mel Gibson, Michael Keaton, Christopher Lambert, Viggo Mortensen, Chuck Norris, Dennis Quaid, Mickey Rourke, Kurt Russell, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Selleck, Sylvester Stallone, Patrick Swayze, and Bruce Willis were considered to play the role of Jimmy Dove. Every single one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. All of the Hollywood the big Hollywood male actors at the time were all considered. They were really going, and it's like for some people, they were going to have to change the story because Arnold Schwarzenegger is not doing an Irish accent. So it would have to be a completely different country. It would have to be somebody
exactly.
different.
I don't see Arnold doing that.
Yeah. Sylvester Stallone is not doing an Irish accent. So it would have to be something different. It wouldn't be an Irish thing. It would have to be, or at the very least, Jimmy wouldn't be from Ireland. He'd be somebody that grew up in the United States and maybe spent the summer over at Ireland or something like that. So yeah, it was. So I can imagine how some of these actors would have changed how the story of the movie. That's usually how it goes.
I can see Mel probably playing the role though. I can definitely see Mel probably doing it.
I mean, yeah, he could do it, but he's not doing an Irish accent either. He can't do an American accent, so it's.
You're right. Never mind. Sorry, Mel. I love you.
No,
but
actually,
that's
he
not
did.
happening.
No, maybe I'm wrong. He did a fairly decent Scottish accent in or at least to my ears, in Braveheart. So maybe he could have done it. It's hard to tell. But
and that movie would have been over because Chuck Norris defusing and being defusing bombs. You're not gonna have a problem.
Yeah, he would have just put it between his butt cheeks and let it detonate. And he was like, "See, that's how you do it."
Exactly, because he is the bomb.
Right. He is the bomb.
But Irish accents were employed by Tommy Lee Jones, who does have some distant Irish ancestry. Jeff Bridges and Lloyd Bridges. The film was widely criticized for the poor accents of the three Irish characters, Jones in particular.
Right. So all I can say is they sound good to me. I'm not going to know, but for people who are actually Irish, I can imagine this has to be annoying. But for people outside of that sphere of influence or that sphere of knowledge, it'll probably sound good. It's good enough for most American audiences.
And, that's something I wanted to mention, though, too, was, okay, so I would actually think that because of the Irish accents and stuff like that, I'm the type of person, if you can't do an Irish accent, don't do an Irish accent. Do whatever you feel like that your character needs to do. But if you're trying to force an accent, it's just not going to work.
Right. I think it just has to be good enough for the intended audience. Like their accents, the way they were employed was good enough for American audience. It can't be so bad that you can't fool the American audience. Because if you can't fool the American audience, then that's when your accent is too bad. So, for example, you had I'm trying to think of her name, Halle Berry in the X-Men movies when she played Storm. She employed her African accent, and it really wasn't good enough for American audiences, so she had dropped it. And you see examples of this in other movies or franchises. And there's another movie that I just talked about. It was Amadeus. So that's about, I think it's 18th century or
it's about
17th century France, right? So actually, they're in Germany. But the director told the actors not to try to do accents. He's like, just do your regular accents and then concentrate on the acting. And as you're watching it, you don't care. You don't care about the accents because nobody's attempting an accent. So like you have Amadeus, even though he's German, he's an American, so he's doing an American accent along with most of the other members of that cast, was just doing that. They were doing it as you might do a play. Like in a play, you might not try to do an accent in a play. I don't know. It depends. It depends on the director. But this particular director is like, don't do it. Just do your regular accent and then concentrate on the acting. And I think that works.
I think so too.
Right. So Jeff Bridges and hold on, let me make sure I'm not skipping anything. I'm not. Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones were good friends or are good friends in real life. Also, they were both considered to play Snake Plissken in Escape from New York before Kurt Russell got the role. That would have been interesting. Can you imagine Tommy Lee Jones as Snake Plissken?
Tommy Lee Jones, I love you, dude, but he's way too serious when it comes to certain roles. It would be a whole different Snake Plissken, right? He would be way too stiff. He wouldn't be this one-liner kind of person, and I could just see him telling John Carpenter, what do you mean that this is the line I have to say? That's all. Just one line. He goes, but there should be more. No, that's the line that you should be saying, Tommy. No, there should. Okay, you know what? We're going to go ahead and get Kurt Russell.
Well,
Tommy.
The thing about Snake is that he doesn't really say that much anyway. And I think Snake also plays himself too. Yeah, he is a serious dude. He's the only serious person in the movie. He's the sane person in a world of really wacky people. And then Jeff Bridges is interesting because as I watched this movie, I was thinking, Jeff Bridges actually looks more like Kurt Russell than I realized. I think he could do it. He really could play Snake Plissken, I believe. I think it would be, I don't know if he chose to be goofier, because he can do goofy and he can do serious. He can do like a serious character. So it really depends on him and what the director wants. So I think it would have worked if it was Jeff Bridges instead.
Let's see. So the shockwave from the exploding ocean liner shattered dozens of windows in East Boston. That's also another thing I forgot about too. Was my grandmother's house, her windows were shattered. So they also had to replace the windows.
That's crazy. Was it the same explosion or did they happen at different times?
I think it might have been might have been the same explosion.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. That seems like a mighty explosion.
Could you just imagine, like, okay, that one wasn't that look, guys, look, that one didn't do enough damage, so let's go back and do it again. But we need to make sure that we shatter enough stuff so everybody knows that we're filming. Okay, let's go. But no, they went on ahead. They shattered pipes. They also shattered glass, and they still bombed at the box office. That didn't even help with their budget.
No.
So that's, I really feel bad for my grandmother with the busted pipes in the windows at this time, because I remember my grandfather cussing on the phone and yelling about being pissed off. But yeah. Nostalgically, this is how I feel about it. I mean, this just holds. I'm sorry that the destruction of my grandmother's house holds a dear place in my heart for this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's it for the trivia, and now we're gonna see what the critics thought. So the critics on Rotten Tomatoes has this movie at 39%. Audience score is 40%, and on IMDb reviews, it's at 6.2 out of 10. So yeah, not a gigantic score, So why don't you let the people know what the critics are thinking?
Okay, so Stephen Allen McGaw, Texas Triangle text, the movie's quieter moments gives an audience the time to ponder the film's almost ludicrous contrived plot.
Yeah. So he's not feeling the plot elements of this movie. No. He's not.
I am though. I'm feeling everything from this movie, especially with them being in Ireland, fighting this war, and stuff like that too, and all the hiding out and stuff. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it.
Right.
So Mac Macy, Gone with the Twins. The stunts and bomb diffusing excitement, including an earth-shattering animation toward the finale, generally outweigh the controversies and editing problems.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree that they had some strong action moments in this movie that kind of outweigh some of the negative aspects of it.
Most definitely. The stunts and the bombing diffusing, it was actually the two exciting things that has going for it. If you don't have those things in a blown away movie, then you have nothing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as the editing goes, usually I can tell when something is very choppy with editing, but I couldn't tell with this movie. I really couldn't.
Well, one of the things he might be referring to, there are certain time jumps. So there's a time jump between when the guy, Jimmy, proposes to his girlfriend to when they're actually getting married. And I think that could have been better edited, because I didn't realize, we're at the wedding already. It's like usually there's a certain period of time and you don't feel that passage of time between the proposal and the wedding. They could have at least did a special transition to suggest a passage of time. So that could have been better. So I think there are certain editor choices that they may have improved upon. But
it'd be funny though, Zoe. I could just see this as a spoof movie. Okay, she said yes. Okay, well, come on with us, Jimmy. Come on, we're going to the back. We also have the priest here.
Right.
You're gonna dress up. We have to do a wardrobe change. We're gonna get a kilt on for you. We're gonna have all this stuff going for you. Okay. She said yes. We're good to go. Music playing in the background. Perfect. Okay, action.
Right.
I could just see. That's exactly what probably happened on the set or something.
And I've seen transitions like this before. Like usually when they do a transition like this, usually it's either transition from like two people being together and a marriage, or two people being together and like a funeral, like they'll transition. But usually they'll transition to like an iconic moment in those services. So if it's a marriage, then it's a transition to the bride and groom together at the altar, just like before they said or right after they've said I do. But they didn't do that in Blown Away. What they did was they transitioned to a party, and you're like, okay, what's this party? Because there are a lot of parties in this movie, and you're like, okay, what's this party? And then through context, you finally get the idea that, oh, this is a wedding party. But it's like you don't get the feeling that people are dressed for a wedding. It doesn't feel like a wedding party or a wedding reception. So that was probably something that he was referring to when he was talking about the editing. But yeah, it's noted. I'll say that. Duly noted, sir. So Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, Blown Away is the kind of movie that people should be sentenced to see if they complain that speed is implausible, which is an interesting thing to suggest. I think that Blown Away could have used slightly more implausible elements to beef it up, because Speed was way less plausible than Blown Away, but it worked better as a movie, as a film, than Blown Away does. And I can't think right now of what it was that they did better. Maybe the tension was better. Maybe the plot was more streamlined. I can't tell you. I don't have the vocabulary for it, but it does work a lot better than Blown Away does.
I think so too, because of the fact that with the opening scene of the main villain, you actually have to set the groundwork. Oh, the cop and him have a history together, where he's trying to capture this bomb expert, who's this terrorist, and there's that background between Keanu Reeves' character and the other character. So you have you actually have ground rules between them two, and you also have established a background on them, of their origins, without having to show us anything.
Right.
Versus this, they show us PTSD moments, they show us stuff in Ireland and stuff like that. So it's I could see, in a sense, now that I'm mentioning it, that there's certain things that are kind of cookie cutter here and there when it comes to those moments. But yeah, I think that Speed is actually the better film.
Yeah. I think that I don't know, maybe that one person mentioned the editing. So maybe if had it been edited better, then we probably would have got a better story, or a better comprehension of the events that was going around. Because I can see what they were doing. They wanted the Tommy Lee Jones character to be mysterious. Like, they wanted us to be a confusion of who he was and what he was about and his motives and stuff like that. And then that is revealed throughout the movie. So it's just, I think the editing, had it been better, would have been better able to reveal this to the audience, instead of, what we got in the movie. But, and maybe that's why Speed kind of edges it out. The other thing that was, that people had, like Roger Ebert was talking about, what's it plausible and implausible. One of the most implausible things was how, the Jones character escaped from prison. Like, there's all making the explosives and hiding behind the body and using the toilet to blow a hole in the wall. That's probably the most improbable escape. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to show how great he was at building bombs and stuff like that, and he used the bomb to escape. But the problem is that if there was an explosion that was great enough to blow a hole in a concrete wall, then the explosion would have been so great that it would shatter the toilet, because the toilet is not made of metal. The toilet is porcelain. So it would have shattered and maybe like done minor damage to the concrete. And plus there's usually rebar behind the concrete. But that was, and then there was nothing to brace the toilet. Like, it should have, like, toilets aren't heavy. So there should have been something that the toilet braced against to keep it from moving. So even if it was a metal toilet or something that was strong enough to force the explosion towards the wall to create the hole, it should have been braced against something so that it didn't move. Because otherwise it would just shoot back and hit Tommy Lee Jones and the dead dude that he just murdered in order to get the plot to move. But
right. But yeah, he even shoots like a bottle rocket bomb at him too. Like I was like, did he just make a bottle rocket bomb?
Yeah, that's
at this dude and fired it.
yeah,
Because that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, that's
I had to
right.
pause it for.
Right. Yeah, I actually like that. That was clever. That's plausible to me.
Right.
So finally, we have Caffeinated Clint of Movie Hole. He wrote one of the better suspense thrillers of the early 90s. You know, I'll give him that. It was difficult to find positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll just say that. And most of them, like sometimes when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, they don't have like a blurb or a couple of sentences. Usually, sometimes it's just a tomato, and you have to do more research to find out what that writer actually said. So, and I'm lazy, so I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'll just grab this one where this guy says it's the better thrillers of the 90s, and I cannot be in 100% in agreement with him, with Speed standing right there, just standing and smacking me in the face.
With that bus over and over again.
Right. But I'm gonna let him have that though. Do you have any final thoughts on what the critics were thinking?
No, I think that the critics, for the most part, might have gotten it right for it in a certain sense. Like I said, I'm gonna have to do this. You actually inspired me to do this for my show too, to be able to strip away the nostalgia to see if they actually got it right or not. Because now I'm like, I do want to go back and review it scene by scene and dissect it even further. But nostalgically and everything, I still love it. I still will put this on probably for 4th of July just to have fun with.
Right.
And just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And just,
all I'm saying is, if it's a movie that you enjoy, then continue to enjoy it, because Lord knows there's so many movies that I love that people hate, and I don't understand the hate, but I can continue to enjoy it. So there's that.
And the beautiful thing about film, man, is like film is subjective.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's a piece of art. So just because somebody else looks at a piece of art and said, "Oh, that's a piece of crap," doesn't mean that to us it's a piece of crap.
Right.
To us, it's the most beautiful thing that we ever seen. So we can't measure. You can't quantumly measure something that you can't see.
Right.
And that's why art is subjective, and that's why film is subjective, and that's why we love the things that we love.
That's why we love the things that we love. That is well said. So, at last, Blown Away is, as of this recording, available on streaming on Max. That's it for the day. Today, I can talk, I promise. Next week, I'm joined by a fantastic TikToker, YouTuber, and podcaster from her show, What If I Don't Like This? She is the incomparable KT Baldar. I'm going to mess up her name already. I had not practiced. I practiced it in my head, but I didn't practice pronouncing it out loud. KT Baldassaro. And it's the letter K, the letter T, not Katie. With
Baldassaro?
Yeah, that's it. Baldassaro. Thank you. You fixed it for me.
You're very welcome.
And I'm glad she's going to be on the show, because together we're going to talk about one of my favorite movies, one of my ride or die movies, one of the movies that really, what do I want to say? It really helped develop my appreciation for cinema, and that movie is RoboCop.
That's such a great one.
Yeah, it's a great one. Madam, you have suffered an emotional shock. I will contact the nearest rape crisis center, or something like that. I remember it's one of my favorite lines in RoboCop, and it doesn't make any sense in this context.
No.
Do you remember the prime directives?
No. I actually reviewed this last year, and I forgot all about certain things in this film already. But I do remember, I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Never Alive, You're Coming With Me. The opening thing that I said in my podcast was like this: I bought this movie in high def just so I can see a guy get shot in the dick.
That's awesome.
High def.
If I remember correctly, it's defend the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. And then there's that mysterious fourth directive that we won't discuss here at this time because it's hidden. So
there you go.
You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlickcinema.com. And if you would please write a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be cool. It would make me feel awesome if you could do that for me. John, do you have any additional plugs?
Yes. A matter of fact, I want to bring up the fact that on the 9th, I'm going to be doing an American Pie 25th anniversary movie review. We're going to be doing a stripping away the nostalgia, talking about it. We're doing a True Lies 30th anniversary coming up on July 10th as well. And then I also I'm actually interviewing a film festival producer tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, with Cindy Milch. She's actually part of the Art is Alive Film Festival that her and her husband actually created. And her husband passed away due to stomach cancer about a year or two ago. By the way, her and her husband were both diagnosed at the same time. And to keep his memory alive, she keeps doing the film festival, which I think is just phenomenal. But yeah, I'm going to be interviewing her. I have a whole stack of stuff that I'm going to be releasing. I got School of Rock dropping probably sometime this week that we're doing. But yeah, plenty of stuff here at Movie Lovers Unite. You guys can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, all the socials. Just follow Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite, and you can pretty much pick me up.
Oh, you got a lot of things going on. That's pretty awesome. So I suspect that True Lies has been re-released on Blu-ray or something like that.
Yeah, on 4K for the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And that thing pops. I had to buy
it. That's pretty awesome. I had to watch it on a pirate site because I couldn't find it anywhere. at the time. This was like last year. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I remember when you did that review.
Yeah.
As well. So, I was like, you know what? The 30th anniversary is coming out. They probably might drop it on a 4K. I'm just going to wait it out a little bit and then do it that way. Right. And I bought it. I love watching it on 4K.
Yeah, that was a brilliant decision. So one last time, if you like the show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlick Cinema, the podcast. Believe me, it matters. And I know that you've enjoyed our guest, John DiGregorio. So please check out Movie Lovers Unite. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.